Let's try it. Hello and welcome to the Crucible. Tonight we have a very exciting interview for you. It's going to be between me, Andrew Wilson, and James of Modern Day Debate. Very excited for this one. Like and subscribe. Hit that mash that like button. Mash it. James, how you doing tonight, man? How's it going? Got to work on the impression a little bit.
That's not too bad, Andy. I'm doing very well, and thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, happy to do it. I've got a ton of questions for you, man. I've been wanting to get you on for a while so that I had it all on record. I really enjoy your show. Appreciate all the support that you've given the Crucible. I want to kind of start at the beginning. How did you get in this? And before you get into that, tell everybody where they can find you and kind of tell us what your channel is about.
My pleasure. So we're at Modern Day Debate, which is a neutral platform hosting debates on science, religion, and politics. And we are very excited as we are striving for neutrality, as well as to get people from different walks of life talking. And I started actually through our flagship topic still to some extent is, you could say, a combination of science and religion. And I started, frankly, because 3 or 4 years ago, I went on channels to debate, and I actually, in some cases, not all, but in some cases I thought, I don't know if this is fair, because I had, for example, the moderator that would jump in and debate me. And I thought, this is kind of weird. So we really work hard on, one, giving the speakers as much autonomy as possible so that they can say what they want. But two, we also work on, hey, if somebody says something that's factually inaccurate, that's on the other speakers, you could say, on their shoulders to take care of. And so that's our goal at Modern Day Debate. And we, with basically science and religion, did that for a couple of years mostly, and then started doing some politics and also some kooky stuff, like whether or not Bigfoot exists. And that's where we are today in terms of all three, or you could say if you add the hoax/conspiracy topic, in addition to science, religion, and politics, all four topics.
Gotcha. How long have you been at this, James?
It's been over 3 years now, and we started in September of 2018 with pretty much just creationism debates, creation evolution for the longest time, which is fun. We still do it once in a while, but at the same time, the audience sometimes, frankly, the audience loves novelty. So we do try to mix it up, and that's a challenge even while spanning 3 or 4 topics. But nonetheless, it's interesting to see across different niches in terms of topics, like the different kind of cultural differences or things like that. Like political people almost always want conversations. Religion and atheism, it's more common that they want formal speeches throughout the debate. So it's, you could say, more commonly an actual, I don't know if I'd say actual, but more commonly a more structured debate and or discussion. And then pretty much a civil discourse for most of the political ones.
Now, you do have, it's my understanding, the largest debate channel of its kind on YouTube. Would you say that that's accurate?
At least that regularly does live streams. And I would say, I don't know if Intelligence Squared does live streams. I would say that our viewership seems to be bigger than Intelligence Squared, despite them having way more subscribers. But I think it's mostly because their viewers listen to the podcast that they have, and YouTube's more of just for getting their name out there more. But yeah, so in a way, you could say in terms of engagement, I guess we are the biggest on YouTube.
Now, would you say that you kind of have moved into this pioneering these live debates in person? I hadn't really seen that done. Most of it had been video online debates, and suddenly that had begun to shift, and I saw that you were doing more and more of that. How did you move into doing in-person live debates?
I would say in terms of how we started it, or why we started it, even stepping back a step, would be that people do enjoy, there is a perceived kind of greater meaning or purpose behind an in-person debate, because you could say that online debates probably, despite the fact that online debates have only been around for, I don't know, like 10 years. I mean, and that's probably way
pushing
longer.
it.
Yeah. So they haven't been around for maybe, I don't know, somewhere between 5 and 10 years, But nonetheless, they probably, I would guess, and I'm actually curious what other people would think. Maybe they disagree. I would guess they probably on YouTube outnumber the amount of debates that are on YouTube that are in person. And a couple of reasons for that. One is that when COVID happened, like there were virtually no in-person ones anymore, and you had a ton of online ones. So the last 2 years almost have been a big player in that. But the other thing is, even before that, in-person debates were just way less convenient, way more costly, to where online debates, probably not right away when YouTube started, but eventually like they started catching up fast. And so I think it does add a greater value. People do enjoy that. I mean, we've certainly seen it, people voting with their feet in terms of like the amount of viewer time, as well as the views themselves. If we do have an in-person debate, it's performed way better with the audience. They've really enjoyed it. And how we're still figuring that we're building the plane as it takes off. We are still learning because we have never done a conference until this January. We're excited. For example, Destiny and Elijah Schaefer will be debating on whether or not religion and religion and government can overlap. That'll be juicy. And I think that's probably our main event. And that's something that we've done 1 or 2 debates in person per day, but this is 5 per day over 2 days. So DebateCon, as we're calling it, is something that we're figuring out as we go, and we hope turns out okay. If it goes okay, if we at least break even, or even if we lose some, but like a tolerable amount of funds, we're planning on doing another one for sure.
And that, well, I mean, it's your first time out. You can't get everything perfect, right? I mean,
Right.
It's going to happen. That's just the way it's going to happen. But just seeing kind of the expansion moving towards having some of these larger debaters move in to the in-person debates versus the online debates it's very interesting to watch. And just watching, for instance, the Charlie Kirk versus Vosh debate in person, I think that the tone was set different because they could read each other's body language, look each other in the eye. Everything about it was completely different than a video online debate. And I think that that has a lot to do with the impersonal versus you're right in front of the other person, right? They could reach right across and touch you literally with their fist if they wanted to. So do you think that plays a massive role in why people tend to kind of act and react to each other differently in person versus these VODs?
100%. I think that I've seen only one heated debate that was in person, and I think that one of the people was purposely planning to make a show of it. But in all of the other ones, I've tended to find that they're actually way more cordial than online debates. They're actually like very nice to each other. Like Destiny and Bosch, when they debated in person in Los Angeles, we hosted and found out that they were actually like very, like you'd say, friendly and calm. And I think that when you see it's another human being in a more full, a more robust sense, people probably treat them more like a human being deserves to be treated, or how they think one should be. So that I think does play a big role. And it might, yeah, I mean, that's at least one reason why I think it tends to have a different vibe.
Gotcha. One of the questions I wanted to ask, have you been frequently disappointed with your in-person kind of engagements with these people who have been built up as towers online? Have you? I've heard a lot of that from different people where they go, look, I kind of met my video online hero, and it kind of turns out I don't like him that much. It kind of turns out I don't like him now. You don't have to name names, but is that something that you've experienced?
That's funny. No, I'd be honest and tell you, keeping it anonymous, I would, but I'd tell you if there was somebody without giving their name, I'd tell you if there have been people that have been difficult. But I would say, actually, they've been pleasant. I actually have been fine with virtually everybody. I can't think of anybody where I thought, oh, that guy just doesn't seem the same, or that gal doesn't seem the same. I'd say they have tended to be either the same or even more personable. And it, in a way, it's almost like the camera in my experience, which is one reason why I have my openings as overly energized as they are, is that the camera kind of filters out a lot, whether it be energy, especially energy, but also other things, to where like they may be even more personable in person.
Gotcha. I have a whole host of other questions for you, but a super chat did come in from Henry Rodriguez. He says, for $5, James, what happened to the Destiny versus Molyneux debate?
Yeah, that was a bummer that Stefan, I think it was within a few days, because Stefan, I think early in November, emailed and he said, because I asked him, hey, would you be willing to debate Destiny? And he said, last week of November, I can probably make it work. And then last week of November, he emailed and said, I actually have to step away from debating for a while. I just got a lot going on. And so that's a bummer. We're hoping to still host it. I do plan on reaching out to Stefan in the new year. But at the I did even email just to say, like, is there anything we could do to make this like convenient or, worthwhile? And I hadn't heard back. So my guess is he's really busy, but we definitely do plan on reaching out to him in the new year, because it's one we don't want to let go.
Yeah, absolutely not. That's going to be one for the kind of the record books. So backing up to the beginning, when you first started this, you're reaching out to different people. What was your big break in, man?
I think actually, no joke. Well, there were two big pivotal points. One pivotal player, there are probably two mainly. One was actually, the very first one was Kent Hovind. So we used to host creationist Kent Hovind. We don't host him anymore, really, but I'm
told he's a funny guy behind the scenes.
He does have a sense of humor, and he also has some things that are currently being under investigation, you could say. So
okay.
we don't host him anymore, and we nonetheless, back then, before we were confronted with that decision, we grew a lot because we hosted Kent Hovind, and especially, for example, like Kent Hovind versus Destiny, that was a big debate that pushed us well beyond like our size. And then I would say another big factor would be that there was a show that we were kind of, in a way, largely, I mean, we were never the first debate show. We never claimed to be. We were to a large extent doing a similar type of stream as the Non Sequitur Show, which is an old atheist kind of debate channel, but also interview channel. And that channel happened to, surprisingly, at about 30,000 subs when we were at about, 3,000. They collapsed, and there was a feud between the two hosts, and which, by the way, is ironic and strange that most debate channels, I find, there are fights between the hosts. It seems like it's almost like Worski and JF, and same thing with Steve and Kyle on the Non Sequitur Show. They basically imploded, and we happened to be, Steve, I have to give him credit, he also pointed in our direction and said, hey, subscribe there. And we kind of picked up a torch in a way, and that was like a big boost. That was probably like 1,500 subscribers in a single day. And that obviously is like, that's like what we get in a month now. So that was a pivotal point, as well as Matt Dillahunty debates. And I generally find that it's the speakers more than the topics that people are excited about. And so Matt Dillahunty, we have to give thanks to, as well as Kent Hovind, regardless of the circumstances now. Like, these speakers have helped us grow a huge amount.
Gotcha. I was curious. My very first experience with modern day debate was a debate that was sent to me, and this was long after it had happened, between Sargon of Akkad and Vosh, and you were mediating it. It was I think the very first time, Sargon really, I think he kind of belted Vosh around pretty good. Vosh came in the second time, and he did far better. So I don't know if that was kind of at the beginning of Vosh's debate career, as it were. But that was my introduction to it, and I thought it was a very good debate. Do any of those favorites kind of stand out in your mind?
That was definitely a good one. That was a fun one. And Sargon's, Vosh is obviously a big timer in terms of following, and Vosh is a very good wordsmith. Like, you can't deny that, regardless of whether or not you agree or disagree with his views. And Sargon obviously has kind of a legacy dating all the way back to like his debate with Spencer. I don't know how many years ago. That was one of the big debates in the whole online debate history. But that was a favorite. I remember Sargon being ready to leave because Vosh was annoying him so much. And I'm glad we did split it into three. That was the first time we ever used these 3-minute segments, which I anticipate we'll probably use tonight, as your brother infrared communist debater will be taking on T-Jump tonight, and that's going to be a fun one. And I anticipate that one's going to be a slobber knocker on communism versus capitalism. But yeah, that was the first time we used 3-minute statements as with Sargon and Bosch.
Yeah, I got a feeling that is going to be a hell of a tangle. I did see that. I was tagged in that tweet. I retweeted it. It's going to be interesting to watch. Both of those guys can easily become unhinged and start kind of losing their shit at each other. Like you said, plays back into the sometimes people are just more excited for the speaker even than the topic, right? But that one's going to be a hell of a debate.
Well, I appreciate their passion. I would put it as I'll trying to defend them, playing devil's advocate, defending T-Jump and infrared. Instead of, let's say, I would say their passion, that is what a lot of people really enjoy. Is there's nothing worse, and you've moderated enough debates, you've hosted enough debates to where there's nothing worse than someone who comes off as low energy and boring to where you're wondering, like, is this person really passionate about this? But infrared and T-Jump, they've got some gusto, and so that's why I think that one's going to be a big one.
Yeah, there's nothing worse than a low energy debate. It makes you think that the person who's doing the debating doesn't really care about the issue. They just showed up, right?
Right.
And nobody wants to see that, not the moderators, not the audience, oftentimes not the other debater. You know, they kind of feel like they got gypped. And they did, right? They kind of did get gypped. It's like, you know, I came in here for a slugfest and it ended up with you kind of rolling over and I had to pat your belly, you know, and that's no good. So moving to kind of towards the center of the story. So we've kind of gotten through what your two big, large breaks were for this and this kind of thing. Now, you obviously get a lot of negative feedback and you get a lot of positive feedback. Would you say that you get more negative than you do positive? And how many of the subs on your channel do you think are just there because they hate your guts so much they have to watch your show?
Yeah, that's a good question. It could be a good mix of, there's probably some people that are just hate watchers. There are probably some people that they don't really like me, but they like the guests. And kind of like I've heard a lot of people say that about Joe Rogan. They don't really per se enjoy listening to Joe, but they love listening to the guests. I'm not saying that's all people, but that could be true for me. And then the other thing is, I think most are positive. The negatives stick out more to all of us because there's just a lot of research that negative, all things being equal, negative tends to stick out to us more, whether it be feedback or anything in life. So that is true. I think that there's more positive, but there's also more negative than you'd expect on a, you could say like a ratio level, like in other words, like independent of how much positive, and which is strange to me because I was, you know, for the longest time, I feel like we got off easy and we didn't really get a lot of criticism, but we do get a lot now. We get a lot, usually, I think, oftentimes from extremists who don't think the other side deserves a platform at all, or they don't think that they deserve a fair shot on the platform. And I think we also get a lot of hate from, man, I don't know why. I don't understand all these people. But yeah, I mean, there's a boycott modern day debate group out there. And in a way, though, we are glad that I feel like if we didn't have that, and if we don't have critics, that we're probably not really having as much impact as we want. Because if you're going to make a difference, if you're going to do something, if you're going to shoot for the stars with anything, you're probably going to have some critics.
Yeah, I largely agree that that's true. It's always interesting to see the different ratio, though. So you go to some of these types of channels and you'll see that most of their audience seems to just really hate their guts. And you go to other ones, it seems like their audience just loves them. Then you go to your channel and it's quite the mix. You know what I mean? It's quite the mix. It's like half the audience is screaming and yelling that you're doing a terrible job. The other half are thanking you profusely on their knees. It's like you can't hardly make heads or tails of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
that's true.
Some of the big criticisms that I see, of course, are the same exact criticisms that happen for all debate platforms. It comes down to the moderating, right? It's always the moderating. Now, it's my experience largely that if somebody's guy loses, it's the fucking moderator's fault, man. Right? Yeah. That's the moderator's fault. Am I wrong in that assessment?
No, you're absolutely right. I tend to find that if someone's guy or gal rage quits, they are embarrassed that their person rage quit, and they are going to say the moderator wasn't doing a good job. Like they were justified in leaving. Of course they would leave. And, you know, that being an example, it doesn't even have to be rage quit, though. It could be almost anything. And people will say, oh my gosh, that moderator was so biased. I mean, yeah, there are notable groups. I mean, like a lot of the Muslims on Twitter, not all, but a lot of Muslims on Twitter think that we're biased. What are you going to do? I can't please everybody. And a lot of people, strangely enough, even though I think that the Earth is a globe, there are pockets of the globe Earth community compared to the flat Earth community that hate modern day debate. I don't get it. Like I said, I think a lot of them, there's just a lot of tribalism, and the moderator, I 100% agree. Oftentimes, that's the scapegoat. They're going to say the moderator did a bad job. So
now, pre-modern day debate, we might never have said the words the round Earth community or the round globe community. Just so you know, right? That's
right.
That's a first. I think that MDD kind of put that on the map. You know what I mean? kind of a fun term. Moving on from there, just out of a blanket curiosity, can you tell us some of the amazing stuff you have coming up?
We are super pumped for this conference, which is in about a month, almost exactly. It's going to be in Dallas, Texas, and it's going to have a religion debates day and a political debates day. And the main event for religion hasn't been announced yet, but it's big. Believe me, we are pumped for it. And it's the other, you could say, political debates that are coming up, for example, being, I said, Elijah Schaffer and Destiny. But also we're excited that Ariel Scarcella said she would be there. And we are going to have a number of others, such as Dylan Burns will be there. I think you guys are buddies.
And then best friends.
And yeah, it's going to be an action-packed conference. But I would say we also, like I said, tonight have the juicy communism capitalism debate. But we also have coming up a weird one, whether or not the idea of Santa is satanic. That should be fun. And then also an abortion debate. So that should be a big one. That's between Victoria Hammett and Sanvi, and that one has been postponed. We don't know when it's going to be, but we're excited for it, and the audience is definitely excited for it.
Now, you work full-time, right, James?
In a way, you could say that. So I'm working on my doctorate right now, and it's extremely busy and it's extremely grueling. It's a really it is challenging, and I have to be honest. I'd be lying if I said that I was just cruising through it with no challenges. It's been a growth experience, though. I like it. I wanted a challenge. That's why I came here, and so I'm happy I'm doing it. I teach, and I also, some semesters I'll do research. Sometimes I'll be like a research or a student, basically like almost like a teaching assistant, and it's busy, Andrew. Yeah.
So how many people are you debating, or are you booking a month right now while you're working on finishing off your degree and you're going through all of this grueling madness? It's got to be a lot of people you're talking to.
There are a lot of people right now, especially for the conference, and it is one of the more exhausting points I've felt in the last couple years, just because this conference is scheduling 10 debates over 2 days right now. This last week or two has been pretty exhausting, and so I am surviving. I'm looking forward to the break where I can catch up a little bit and also get to work on the conference, which we're excited about.
Gotcha. What do you see for your channel down the road, James?
We would love to do a more balanced approach where we right now have maybe 20% are political debates, maybe 30%. We would like it to be an even, maybe even as high as 50%, but at least 1/3 of our debates we'd like to be political. And then we'd like to do more topics, like new topics, changing that up as well as there are a lot of speakers that we still just haven't gotten to actually invite yet. So we definitely, like I said, novelty is actually key in a debate channel, and we were excited to change things up in 2022.
How much fun is Alex Stein on a scale of 1 to 10?
Yeah, that's right. You debated Alex. So Alex is, despite the fact that, Alex is another, what's the word they say, bifurcating or kind of dividing fellow. Some people love Alex or they hate him. And I can tell you, though, that we see in the Creator Studio stats, which I constantly check on, Alex's debates, nonetheless, we just keep seeing more growth from Alex's debates. So I've got to hand it to him. We do grow when we host Alex. And so whether you love him or hate him, he has been a help in our growth of modern day debate.
Primetime 99 came on the Crucible. I didn't know if you knew that or not. And he took on the entire Crucible, the whole audience. the moderators, our best debaters. He took on everybody.
Oh, that's juicy.
Yeah,
That's
you can go to Crucible clips and take a look at the Alex Stein clips. They were pretty amazing. It was pretty amazing to watch Primetime 99 come on here. Couple more quick questions for you before I let you go. I don't want to take up too much of your time today. I appreciate you coming in to visit with us. If you had to emulate another channel, which one would you try to emulate?
Yeah, I don't like the idea of I don't want to do it completely like them. I want to do it for the purpose of, so I mean, I think what you're asking is like, what channel do we like really like and we want to be like them versus what we want to like mimic in order to grow.
Right.
In terms of mimicking to grow, Jubilee, we are planning on doing some kind of like mimic like thumbnails and videos to try to get into that niche or that kind of group of people that watch Jubilee. But it's difficult to know in terms of what we'd like to be like. I don't think there's anyone out there that we per se really want to be too much like. We like being, one is that it's a challenge at the same time, but hosting, or you could say trying to divide and pursue religion, science, and politics is a challenge because it's very diverse and it's kind of against common YouTube best practices because they usually say, specialize and, just do a debate channel on politics or just do a debate channel on science, but don't do all of them. And so that's something that we want to stick with, though, is we really are actually planning on continuing to try to do, like you could say, a decent balance of all three. And so it's not that there are no channels out there doing a good job. It's more that we really want to be different by straddling all of those topics.
Is there anybody that you've wanted to have on, but you were too afraid to bring them on?
Not yet. We have had, what were those fellows' names? Brenton Langle looked up Stryker and Enoch, and I think that's what their names were.
Yeah, I'm very familiar with Eric Stryker and Matt Enoch. Yep.
So Enoch, I know, was one of the names, and then we had a Stryker. I think maybe came on later, but it was Enoch, and I can't remember. But they had come on. Yeah, I was Stryker and Enoch, and that was the most controversial. I didn't really know what I was getting into when I hosted them. I didn't know quite the extent of their views. We still would potentially host them, and the reason is, though I disagree with many speakers. I mean, you can't agree with, like, it's just inevitable. You're going to disagree with an awful lot of the people you host when you do a bunch of different topics. Nonetheless, we would be willing to do it again if the circumstances were right. There were some topics we wouldn't do because they're against terms of service. But as of now, we are considering one very controversial speaker, and we're kind of mulling it over because, it's always kind of a balance where there is a limit to controversy. And sometimes I think you have to be careful because not only is there a limit in the sense that, you could get in trouble if you host them and they say something that's against terms of service, you get a strike or whatever, so that's one thing, but also because many people will say, I'm not coming back on your channel if you host so-and-so. So that's a delicate balance as well. But long story short, there's nobody that we'd never host.
As we move into kind of this more draconian clampdown from both YouTube and Twitch and these other elements, we just saw a massive Twitter purge that happened of controversial right-wing personalities, this type of thing. Moving forward, are you being a little bit extra cautious?
It could be the case that we get washed away. And I don't know if it's, I'd have to look into it more to find out how many strikes anyone may have gotten or strike warnings before they were taken off of YouTube. I would suspect it would be kind of strange to me if they didn't get any sort of warnings, but it might be the case. I'm not denying that. So that's something I've got to look into. I don't foresee it. I think the nice thing is we can pivot if it gets to be too heated. Science and religion have been pretty safe topics overall. And I think it'll be, it's something that we're willing to kind of test the waters with and kind of figure out somewhat by trial and error. We might get a strike at some point. We've gotten a strike warning before. That's the worst we've gotten so far.
Gotcha. A couple more things. I still got a little bit of time on the clock for you, and they're just a host of questions that people sent me for you that they wanted to know about. Do you have a very active Discord community?
it is active, but I'm not per se active on it. And I don't have anything against Discord. I think that it's a fun community, it sounds like. I frankly haven't found it super intuitive. The user face is, like, to me, confusing. But nonetheless, I'm happy that Modern Day Debate does have an active Discord because other people have been leading it. And I'm thankful that that there's a community there, and that people have been doing debates on, I think today they were debating whether or not college should be free. I saw that pop up on my notifications, but there is one. You won't actually really see me there just because I'm not familiar with how it works even after several years.
So you're a boomer. That's what they would say, right?
That's
Boomer
right.
James can't do the Discord thing. Took me a long time too, man. Took me a long time to figure that shit out. From Potato, keeps on coming up multiple times. Ask James what his fitness and workout regime looks like, and whether he thinks he could beat vegan gays in a cage fight.
That's funny. Workout, fitness, and I definitely do love to work out, and I definitely lift 6 days a week. It's a lot of fun. It's just great to kind of handle stress as things are pretty busy. And whether or not I could be vegan gains, I think he's got experience in it, doesn't he? That's the biggest predictor of success, and that I think almost any domain. But it's certainly a good predictor. But I do have wrestling experience, and so depending on how much grappling experience, but his striking experience might be so extensive that I may not stand a good chance. I don't know. It depends on how good his striking abilities are. Frankly, I doubt there are a lot of people out there that would be able to out grapple me. I think that there are probably some people with BJJ experience, and that it's going to be a challenge. I have some, maybe a year's worth, and then I've got like 2 years of judo, but mostly like wrestling is something that maybe, I don't know, who knows? I gotta ask him. I gotta figure out how much experience he's got.
Gotcha. We've got a bunch of other questions to get to, but real quick from my partner Pedro, this is the only ambush question for you. Would you be willing to come on the Crucible and do a debate against one of our moderators?
Potentially, if you could give me time, though.
Of course.
Like, there are people that have asked for debates, and I'm not closed to it. Like, you can see on the channel, like, I've done debates. I've done in-person debates too. I like debating. It's way more fun than moderating, and I do like moderating. It's fun, but if it could be later on, it's more likely. Although in terms of experience, I like moderating is kind of where I've found myself, just because we've done like 600 debates moderating and stuff like that. So I don't know if it would be my strong suit as much as I think in the past I felt comfortable debating and enjoyed it, but it would also depend on the topic.
Sure. Well, here at the Crucible, we have many different hats. We throw the moderator hat down sometimes. Sometimes we pick up the debate bloodsport hat. Sometimes we just have interviews. A lot of different hats that we wear. But I think that would be a fun one to watch you and Pedro do a religious debate. At the Crucible, James, have you been convinced of any conspiracy theories since you started your channel?
That's funny. I think there's more credibility to the moon landing hoax idea than people probably originally give. I suspect we still did go to the moon, but one thing that is kind of like, oh, okay, yeah, is that if we were flexing on Russia and we were actually not having it been to the moon yet, well, then faking it would be a good flex when when we were basically in a race with Russia to the moon. So you could say in that weird case, there is an actual reason why there might be a hoax where you're trying to, outdo your enemy or your rival. But I still suspect we went to the moon. But it's way different from the flat Earth idea, which is bizarre that you'd have all of these governments in on it together. That's another thing, that they, get along with each other enough to run this charade. But I also don't know what reason there would be. It's like that competitive kind of nature of trying to flex on an enemy just doesn't seem to exist to me in a flat Earth context.
Base Moon wants to know, James, what are your politics?
Yeah, so I would say I try to be open-minded in terms of, listening to everybody. I have told Jake, Papa Bird Jake, who's a popular left-leaning streamer, I've told him on his stream before, my inclination is more politically right. So there are things that concern me about politically left ideas. there are some things that also today concern me about politically right ideas. I do think that right now both parties are, I think it's always good to evaluate themselves. But yeah, I mean, I'm like, for example, let's see, without trying to think of, some of these are more personal like behaviors than, for example, like the amount of guns I own is not necessarily, you could be a political left person and own a lot of guns, because that's, so it's anyway.
We've got that horseshoe theory going on with that now with guns, don't we? Or it's like the dissident communists like them just as much as the far right wingers do now, don't they?
Yeah, so there's a lot of gray, and it's also, like I said, the last thing that I want to do though is like close my eyes and my ears to like what other sides are saying. I really do want to like give it a genuine kind of like, okay, like let me give it its best shot, which I think is what makes a debate channel fun too, is, people who enjoy learning how things work. And sometimes where you hear a view where you're like, oh, so that's why they believe that. Like, oh, okay, like that's fun, that's interesting. And so for me, that's roughly where I stand though.
Now, because I'm the ultimate Chad father, and I do like to compare my lawnmower with every other person on planet Earth, James, what type of lawnmower do you have?
Oh, I don't even own a lawnmower. I didn't know you do. That's
no
for you.
Don't even have. Mine's better than JF's. It's better than Counterpoints. Better than everybody so far, man. Better than everybody so far. You don't even have one. You can't even throw your hat in the arena, James.
That's true. It is embarrassing. I suspect this summer I may get one.
This summer,
I'll update you when I find out what I get.
Get your lawnmower. Now, a couple more quick things. We'll wrap it down at the 40-minute mark. We're at 37 minutes now, and let you get on your way. We know you have a great big debate tonight. Who would you say that your favorite people are to have on?
You mean like favorite in the sense that they're like the most engaging, like on the stage, so to speak? Let's see. Alex Stein.
Alex Jones.
Alex Jones's son, Alex Jr. Stein, is definitely energizing, definitely energetic. I don't agree with everything he says, but I have to say I'm like, like he's certainly entertaining. And I do, let's see, I appreciate Tom Jump's conviction. I don't agree with Tom on everything either, and like to a pretty significant degree with both these characters, but I appreciate speakers with conviction. And so those are like two common guys that have helped the channel a lot. We're thankful to have them on. And let's see. I would say, I don't want to babble. Those are two.
Yeah, two is plenty. I also understand too, when you get in with various larger streamers, it's very difficult to get everybody's schedule synced up. Very difficult to get them where they need. People are always wondering, why don't you just have this person on? Well, it's not really that simple, is it? We have to coordinate their schedule, coordinate the other person's debate schedule, plus our own schedule, come up with the proper topic, have them both agree. And at the same time, we're doing 50 other things, right? Yeah. It's not such a simple endeavor as people seem to think that it is. And this is why kind of my hat's off to you, because the amount of people that you book that are high profile that come on and do these debates, and the amount of live debates that you do, along with your very busy schedule. I mean, when do you find time to sleep, man?
Yeah, that's a challenge. It has been exceedingly busy to where it is actually a challenge to sleep. And I don't brag about that. I try to always set aside 7 to 8 hours because I just think that's a more sustainable strategy. But it is so busy right now that it is a big challenge. But I've got to say one thing, that with momentum, as we've grown now, I'm thankful that oftentimes, I've had some debates in the last couple of months, especially they were really big debates. And there was two people that reached out to me and they're like, hey, we know we want to debate each other. We got in a fight on Twitter and you want to host us? And we're like, absolutely. And so that's been a huge help, is that some of these debaters come in with an opponent and a topic. And I'm like, oh, that makes my life so easy, because I'd say 90% are people who are like, one, oftentimes it's common that they don't have an opponent lined up. Two, they oftentimes it's not clear what like topic they want. And so I'm like, okay, like make this easy on me. At least tell me what topic you want so I can set you up. But yeah, it's been pretty busy.
And then one last thing, do you work with a small team?
You could say it's a small transitory team. So I have been thankful that we've had some people, like years ago, it was John Singleton, who I haven't seen him for, I don't think I've heard from him in 2 years. Really great guy, great debater, great moderator. And people like that who have maybe like cycled in and out, they kind of circle in, and they, with maybe a few months, maybe even a year, maybe even several years, they're helping out. And then, maybe they just, other things come up, other interests. And so then they, pursue those too. And we don't see them as often. And so I would say it is fair to say, though, it's absolutely a team effort. And like I said, some people, it's like even maybe just one time they chip in, but it's like that helps a lot. And then it's something, like I said, sometimes they're sticking with us for a couple of years helping out. And I've been super thankful. So don't think that this is like a one-man kind of deal. Like, I'm extremely grateful. Bob, Amy, Amanda, like there have been a lot of people that have been super helpful putting in like serious work, that I have to say that it is definitely a team, community, even effort.
That's exactly how it is in the Crucible. We've been very blessed. Some of our fans have ended up doing a lot of the production, a lot of the various different things. It's been kind of amazing how organically that kind of thing can come together, isn't it? For $5, it's asked, why are you philosophically committed to the interplay of ideas? Is any subject too taboo to discuss, independent of any applicable TOS?
Glad you asked. So when I was an undergrad, I quickly was turned off and annoyed by the idea that tolerance, as it used to be pushed, I think was really just a masked form of, we want to make everybody just agree. Don't agree. Don't say that one view is the only true view. Like, be tolerant. And I was so turned off by that, because I thought it doesn't even make any sense that to be tolerant, you have to agree with everyone and not say that, no, I think my position's right. It's almost like, if you think about it, it's like, does it make any sense if I said like, oh, you and I agree on this? I tolerate the fact that we agree on this. It'd be like, what? It doesn't even make sense. It has to be the case that you disagree. It only makes sense if you say like, okay, we disagree, but I tolerate that. And so I was so turned off my years in undergrad that I thought, what is wrong with this? Universities, I think, oftentimes try to push this idea of like, not all, but a lot of people in university, I think it's supposed to be this like, and it's just so weak-kneed. And I frankly think it's meant to, it's like, it's a card that's only played on ideas that people don't like oftentimes too. So like, they'll have things that they'll say that they're like the one true person or one correct person on that issue. But if you, for example, like if you said that it could be in religion, like if you say Jesus is the only way, and they will be, oh, this is intolerant and how dare you. And so for me, that idea of so-called tolerance was just a facade for trying to control and emotionally manipulate people into, not coming forward with their views. And so I've always been really big on like, let's disagree, and we don't have to be enemies afterward. Like, we can just let it be water under the bridge. So that for me is a really big personal value that I try to carry into modern day debate. And so that, I'd say that's maybe the bigger one. I think we learn a lot through debates. I think it's a very efficient way to learn, because presumably both sides are going to try to bring the best of their side's arguments. Now, are they always great at choosing that? Probably no. Like, they're not always great, that's for sure. But they're going to try to bring the best. And so that's a useful and efficient way to learn. I think that the other question was, is any subject too taboo? No, I don't think any subject would be too taboo. And the reason is, and that's independent of terms of service. If it wasn't for terms of service, I think I'd probably be open to hosting anything. And the reason is, if the arguments are better, they're going to win out anyway. And this isn't just like my subjective opinion, because a lot of times people are like, oh, James, how dare you host this person or this idea? And I'm like, listen, this is old research. Like Petty and Casiobo, they 1986, have been around finding evidence for this theory of, it's called the elaboration likelihood model, that people tend to be persuaded in the long term by logical, reasonable arguments and evidence. And rather than, because sometimes people say, oh, you have some of these hacks, some of these people on the channel that they're charming and they're funny, but and so they're tricking people into, you know, adopting their views, or they're good looking, whatever it is, and you know, that's how they're winning the debate. And it's like, well, the research suggests that even while in the moment they may seem more persuasive, in the long run, the person with the better arguments is actually going to have the greatest effect on people's beliefs. That's what the research says. And so when people claim these things and I press them and I say, okay, well, where's your peer-reviewed theory? Like, elaboration likelihood model is widely supported across psychology. There's tons of evidence for it. And so I am amazed that when I ask them for their peer-reviewed argument or kind of evidence to back their claim, they suddenly try to avoid the question. They try to change the subject. And so, long story short, that's why I am so laissez-faire about what topics.
Well, it's all personally subjective to them, right? They're not. They're just saying it wouldn't convince me, so therefore it wouldn't convince anybody else. Right?
Yeah, it is incredibly anecdotal. Absolutely. And for me, which is ironic, because a lot of these people claim like, oh, I'm all about the evidence and the research and things like that. And like I said, I'll bring up this model that I just talked about, and they will just give these anecdotes. And I'm like, okay, you are seriously so phony for claiming that you're all about evidence, because clearly when it comes to this, you're just giving me your opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. James has a debate that he has to prep up for. We sure appreciate you taking the time this Monday to come in, say hello to everybody. He's been a friend of the channel for no particularly good reason, just happens to be a good guy, happens to love debates. Everybody watching this, make sure you go to Modern Day Debate, like and subscribe. He's got some killer ones coming up. James, can you go ahead and speak us out, my friend?
Thank you, Andrew. It's been a pleasure to host you as a debater. Always fun. And we look forward to hosting you again if you'd like to come on. It's been fun to have you. And but yeah, I know that you're wearing many hats as both a debater, a moderator, and in other roles. But want to say thanks, everybody, for being here today. This has been a fun time to hang out with you guys. And so I always do appreciate it. And that's one thing, too, is I do want to welcome challenges. I don't want people to feel like they can't criticize us. I want them to feel like we're open to criticism and we're not going to hide people or ban them.
Your show sucks, James.
No, we get that often, but we want it to be an open kind of area where people can give us that pushback. And so I do appreciate any tough questions if anybody has them, though most of these were, I appreciate it was, I appreciate any type of question, including these more congenial ones. So thank you.
Well, I think a lot of it is there's just not a whole lot of you talking out there. You know what I mean? So I think some of this is just my audience wants to kind of get to know you, wants to kind of get to know the guy behind the moderator. We see a lot of these different, topics on your channel, these different debates on your channel, but we don't really get to see a whole lot of you talking about your takes. So maybe just this first time, we'll leave the criticism out and just let the audience get to know you.
Well, thank you, Andrew, for this opportunity to have this conversation. It's been fun, and I look forward to getting to know people from the Crucible, and so I appreciate you guys.
All right, man. Have a good one. And
I bet those glasses make you see better.